Well, with that, we want to bring in our panel to help us break down some of the day's headlines. Caitlin Conant is the political director at CBS News, and David Brody, CBN's chief political analyst. First, we want to talk about this back and forth between President Trump and the squad. It's getting a lot of attention. Over the weekend, President Trump seemed to almost double down, and he continues to go after Congresswoman Ilhan Omar especially. Is this send her back chant, Caitlin? What it was for Hillary Clinton in 2016?
Well, I think it's clear that President Trump wants to make a foil out of the squad. And I think he thinks that it can fire up his base and his core supporters, much like he did in 2018 with Speaker Pelosi. We saw lots of ads for all the congressional candidates saying, elect us, we don't want Pelosi in the House. It's obvious that he wants the squad to take that place. But what remains to be seen is how independents will take to this message. And in 2016, President Trump won election in large part due to independents. And I think they would probably rather be talking about the economy, the courts, than having this Twitter fight play out between the president and the squad. And last time I was on with you guys, we were talking about Labor Secretary Acosta, who was resigning because he went out in front of the White House and said, I have to resign because this controversy with Epstein is a distraction from talking about how great the economy is and how well we're doing with unemployment numbers. And now here we are on week 2, not talking about the economy. We're again talking about the squad. So I think it remains to be seen how this plays out in terms of a long-term strategy.
David, the president seemed to take some steps back from his disavowal last week, again praising that crowd over the weekend. What happens the next time that he's at a rally? Did he do enough to prevent the crowd from saying it, and how would he respond?
50-50. It's a jump ball. We have no idea. Doesn't that make it interesting, though, if you think about it? Look, it's funny. It started as a 24 to 48-hour news cycle. It's now gone to a week of a news cycle. Right. He turned it in today with that tweet about when he invoked the R word. He's now made a news cycle a news cyclone. And eventually, this is really going to be a new contour for the whole race. I mean, forget the news cycle. I think we're past that. I think he's developed a contour. Clearly, the White House thinks they can win. I know a lot of critics will say stoke racial tensions. Call it whatever you want. The bottom line is there's this underbelly in America that he's speaking to, which masks or at least brings out a lot of stuff and some uncomfortable stuff we may not want to talk about in this country.
Well, so to the Mueller report, he's supposed to testify, the former special counsel, on Wednesday this week. We're not expecting to learn a lot new because it's all, as he said, in that report. Caitlin, how do Democrats benefit here?
Well, I think, as you mentioned, we don't expect him to say anything new. He's already said that he's not going to talk about anything that's beyond the report. But the Democrats want to keep focus on these investigations and on what the president may or may not have done. And the president, obviously, is not thrilled with this. He wants to change the subject. He said he's not going to watch the hearing, but that remains to be seen.
He has executive time.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, this is something the Democrats want to keep talking about. But Mueller, as FBI director, he's testified before Congress dozens of times, and I don't expect him to get frazzled or say anything that he doesn't want to say.
I think this is a last-ditch effort by the Democrats to build public opinion for impeachment. I mean, we saw this with Nixon and Watergate, that it didn't start out so well for it started out well for Nixon, and then it kind of deteriorated. They're hoping this is going to be the same thing, because it's not just MSNBC and CNN and all the cable networks. All the major networks are going to cover this, which means The Price is Right, I won't be able to watch it because it's on CBS, which is basically the headline of this whole story.
Yeah, David, do you think this strategy, though, if this is in fact their strategy, could this backfire on Democrats?
Oh, I think there's a big backfire potential here because, once again, everybody's talking about, oh, this is the movie version, right? I mean, if no one read the book, this is the movie. Well, but people read the crib notes, and most people do read the crib notes. And the crib notes, as Donald Trump will say, no collusion, no obstruction. I think there's some asterisks involved in that. But the point is that folks get a good sense of that. And therefore, all of this on Wednesday is going to feel a bit overload, especially when, once again, The Price is Right is interrupted. That's a different level, you understand.
What you do during your executive time, David.
Right.
To campaign 2020, a new NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll shows that the majority of the public isn't too thrilled with President Trump's direction for the country, but they're not impressed as well with Democrats' direction for the country. So what does that say to the both of you? And we'll start with ladies first.
Well, I think the late Senator John McCain used to joke that the only people who still liked him were his family and his paid staff. So this is not unusual that people are disenchanted with Washington. I think it was a big part of why President Trump was elected in the first place. He was going to shake things up. People thought that he was going to fight for them. So we'll see if people think that after 4 years he did fight for them. And also if there's someone on the Democratic side who they think might be able to fit that same mold and go against Washington and deliver for them and their families.
Yeah, and I think the intensity in that Marist poll show that independents are just like, either side. It's just they're not enthused with either side. And that's a problem for Democrats. I mean, for Trump, it's all about the base, right? And Ralph Reed described this. Ralph Reed, the evangelical organizer and political strategist, called this a Braveheart election, where both bases are coming in with swords ready to go. So if Democrats need to get independents jazzed because margins are won at the elections, and I think it's going to hurt them more than it will Trump. Trump's got to get his base out. That's the bottom line.
All right. David and Caitlin, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.